Welcome to part 2 on the 1974 Yamaha TX500. So if you guys missed the last video on this bike, we actually bought this for 125 bucks from an online auction, bidding against like 15 other people, and somehow won it for 125 bucks. So we got this thing back home, started diagnosing it and going through it, and we found the original paperwork for it, and we saw that the original owner bought it in 1974 for 1,400 bucks. And this is a one-owner bike, and it was last registered in 1998, so it was sitting 27 years. So last video we went through the whole bike and fixed up a couple things. We checked the valves, the timing, the carbs, went through the fuel tank, changed out the fuel, changed out the oil, and we actually attempted to fire this thing up and it would not start. So we went and checked compression, and we found that the compression was very inconsistent. You could kick it over like 5 times and compression would stay at like 60 psi, then all of a sudden it would jump up after kicking it over like 15 times. So I'm guessing that the rings are stuck to the piston from sitting so long. We stuck our camera down there and it looked like the carbon on top of the piston was really heavily built up. There's a ton of carbon on both pistons, so I'm guessing there's carbon around the rings as well. So we actually let the cylinder soak with penetrating oil and some Marvel mystery oil down there, and it's been about 2 days of letting it soak, so I figured why not give this thing another starting attempt. So that's what we're going to do today. We're hoping that we can get this thing up, running and driving by the end of the video. So a couple more things I want to check before we attempt to start it. So looking at the comments, somebody said that the balancer shaft in here has problems, that would come out of whack and cause the timing to be off. So what we're going to do is put both cylinders to top dead center and make sure that the piston is at the top of the cylinder. So I don't think that is the problem because we checked timing last video and the dot here lines up with the arrow on the holder here. Same with the dot there, lines up with that holder. So it'd be very, very unlikely that the pistons are not at the top of the cylinder, but there's always that chance. So we'll check that first. And I want to do a leak down test because somebody mentioned that maybe the valves aren't sealing in the head. So because of the carbon buildup in the cylinder and on the piston, maybe that carbon got loose and it's getting caught between the valve and the seat and not sealing properly. All right, so coming down here, we're going to take this cap off. Cap gives us access to the crank bolt, which we can spin the engine then. And we're going to set both cylinders to top dead center right now. And what we're going to do is check and see if both pistons are at the top of the cylinder when set to top dead center. Right now it's set to the V mark, which would be the timing mark for this engine. And we'll quick set it to that to make sure that our timing marks are lined up again. Just to confirm, you can see arrow, dot, so our cam timing, cam chain timing, and cams are lined up perfectly. I also read that people mess up the intake and the exhaust cams. I know these are correct because it says intake right here on it stamped and exhaust on it right there stamped. So the cams are incorrectly as well, so we can rule that out. Let's go ahead and set this one to top dead center on the right cylinder. This says F, R, and T. We're going to set it to the T, and that's going to be top dead center on the right cylinder. And we're going to look down, and we should see the piston right at the top. And as you can see, it's right there. So, yeah, that looks good. All right, now we're going to set it to the left side, and we're going to see if that piston's at the top of the cylinder. It should be. If it's not, then we've got major issues. All right, there's FLT. Set it to the T. Let's see if our piston's at the top of the cylinder here. Yep, you can see the piston right there going through. There's a ton of carbon built up on there. But the piston is at the top of the cylinder, so we can rule out the timing for sure. What we're gonna do now is a leak down test for each cylinder. Because we're at top dead center on the left, we'll start with that one. What we're gonna do is hold the crank position here with the wrench, just like that, and we're gonna zip tie that down so it can't move. And then what we're gonna do is put about 15 psi of air down the left cylinder. We're gonna hear where that air comes out of. If it comes out of the carbs, it's gonna be a leaky intake valve. If it comes out the pipe back here, it's gonna be a leaky exhaust valve. If we hear a lot of air coming out of here, the head and the cylinder down here, it is leaky rings, and it will kind of travel down into the crankcase down here. But you know, a little air is common to hear, but if it's just gushing out air, it's most likely, you know, air getting by those rings, which we suspected. All right, we've got our left piston at top dead center, locked in. Just want to make sure it is actually at top dead center. Yep. So now what we're gonna do is take our hose here. It's just a straight hose going in. We're gonna add compression to this hose and seal it off. Then we're gonna listen. All right, here we go. Let's see what we get. Very interested to find out. Hopefully that crank doesn't move. I just hear the rings. So it's going by the rings a little bit. Nothing out of the pipe. Let's see about the carb. Nothing out the carb either. Yeah, it's just going out the cylinder. So valves are definitely sealing on this side. Let's check the right. Well, that's good. Valves are sealing on the left side. Let's go ahead and turn our crank to the right hand side. Position on the right side. Be right. All right, now same thing. Put our hose directly down the cylinder. Let's attach our hose here. Yeah, you can hear it escaping down here. Ooh, that one might be coming out of the carb. I think that's the carb right there. Yeah. That one's coming out of the carb. We are at the T. Yeah, that's definitely the carb. So I don't think the valves are sealing on the right hand side cylinder. You can hear it pretty good there. So that would be a problem. Well, at least we confirmed that. You can definitely hear the air. Yeah. What about the pipe? Nothing but the pipe. The valves are loose here too. Yeah, so I think those seats are all carboned up, preventing those valves from sealing. So really the only way we can get those to seal again is to get this bike to fire up and then the pounding of the valves to the seat will eventually break up that carbon. But right now, I mean, there's not much you can do. You know, turning over the engine helps too, a bunch. But really the only way that you can make sure that they're sealing is taking it all apart. Yeah, you can definitely hear it coming through that carb. All right, we've got our camera out here. We're just kind of taking a look at those valves. And as you can see, they're really carboned up. You guys can see them right there. And there's the other one. Let's see. Right there's the other one. You can kind of see it. Hard to see them. And if you look at the piston, it's just extremely carboned up. So I'm guessing, there's the view of both. Switch it back to the piston view. You can see how much carbon's on that piston. I'm guessing as that breaks free, it's getting stuck between the valve and the valve seat, preventing it from closing all the way. You can see just how nasty that piston looks. So I'm guessing a combination of worn rings and valves. You can see the tip of that valve right there in the corner coming down. So I think the more we start this thing up and run it, the better it will get. But yeah, you can just see all the carbon there. So it's kind of what we're dealing with. We're hoping that letting this thing soak for 2 days helped us loosen up those rings at least. So maybe somehow we gained enough compression to at least start this thing up. That's what we're hoping. All right, let's get this valve cover back on before we do anything. Hopefully it slips right back on. Before I drop a bolt down the spark plug hole, let's get these spark plugs back in. Do the other side quick. Yeah, I've definitely done that before where you are putting the cover back on and then you drop a bolt. It goes right down the spark plug hole, and then you're spending an hour fishing it out. So it's better to put the plugs in and then tighten everything back down. All right, bolts back in. Let's see here. All right, gas is going to it. Let's turn this thing over a couple times, see what happens here. Hopefully that compression went up after we let this thing sit for a couple days with oil down the cylinders. We'll see here. Good. Go. She's running. Look at that. Is it gonna die out? Oh boy. No choke. Try it. Choke it. Uh-oh. right there. It really wants to go. We're going to add a bunch of oil down the cylinders again and try this again. It's really, really close to going. So we had it fire up one time. We just need to get it to fire up and idle for a bit so we can rev it out and clear that thing out. Get these plugs out again. Yeah, plugs don't look horrible. There's the right side plug there. All right, let's dump a bunch of oil down there. See if that helps at all. Some oil going down here. Put a bunch down. Same with the other side. All right, we've got oil down both cylinders. Let's try it again. Choke it. It's trying. So close to going. Third time's a charm. Let's try it again. Alright, we tried pouring a bunch of gas down the cylinder. We'll see what the heck happens. Choke it. think that was worse. Well, I have attempted starting this thing probably 50 times now. Putting oil down there, trying to start it, you know, it puffs over a couple times and stalls out. Puffs over, stalls out. And it keeps on doing the same thing. I got to run one more time, maybe 5 seconds, and then it stalled out. But that was the longest it ran. And yeah, each cylinder seems like it's pretty low in compression. We're gonna do a quick compression check to check before we start tearing this thing down. I think we're gonna have to manually unstick those rings, and at that point you may as well put new rings in since you're already in there. So we're gonna see what the compression is at, and then we'll kind of go from there. All right, starting with the left side cylinder, throttle open, let's crank it, see what we get. Yep, that would be the problem. 70 PSI. Try one more time. And like I said before, sometimes it jumps up, sometimes it doesn't. $75 PSI. Yeah, not good. Compression almost seems like it's getting worse. It's definitely not improving, I know that. All right, here we go, throttle open. See what we get. $70 PSI. Try one more time. Yeah, 70 PSI. So that's way too low. This thing would probably run pretty decent at 90, but 70 PSI is just way too low. And we've tried letting these rings soak, you know, for a long time, 2 days. We've tried penetrating oil, WD-40, gas, regular oil, 2-stroke oil, all down there. Nothing's loosening up those rings. So we're going to have to tear into this thing and see what's going on, which will be pretty fun anyway. I'm curious to see how bad those rings are. Well, I really thought we were gonna be able to free this one up and get that compression to go up, but unfortunately, we're gonna have to tear it down. So first thing we're doing is taking off the points plate. Now the cap right here comes off, and we're going to set the mark to the V mark. And that's the timing mark you want to be at. Right there. I'll show you guys what that looks like. The engine, when the mark is at the V, right there, you can see the V with the line. That's what you want to see. So now we can come up and take off the valve cover here, start tearing this thing down. All these can come off. We're gonna have to get those off later. come off. So, yep, our timing marks are still lined up. You can see the dot there, the arrow there, dot there, arrow there. So timing didn't move at all. Cam chain still feels tight. That feels good. So we can move on from here. Guessing these are all full of oil. These are fancy little caps. Never seen those before on a bike. Look how fancy those are. See if we can get in there with a Allen wrench. Alright, cap number 2 coming off. And this whole piece can slide down. And this should pull right out of here. That. Here's the pipe. What was in there? Anything? No oil coming out. So I think all the oil actually went down into the bottom end because the rings were so worn. That's crazy, not any oil in the pipe. Wow. Alright, we're just going to take the whole pipe off. I'm not going to risk damaging the pipe trying to take it off, so. Yeah, that's too nice of a pipe to wreck. These off last video. Cleaning these out. They weren't too bad to get off. It was just hard to get the air box in there. Should pull right out. We can get these carbs off right away too. Carbs are out. These little black caps are covering all the bolts. Take all those off. Right back here, there's an oil line. Hope you guys can see that. Right there, going all the way along. Take off the head, you need to crack that and get that bolt off. There we go. same with the bottom. Banjo bolt. Alright. That's what that oil line looks like. Bolts right back in. Down here, the cam chain tensioner bolt is right there. It's got a washer. Alright, now to get the cam chain off, we have to get technically the master link out, which is right here. You can see it's riveted, and then there's two ends that are kind of like slotted out right here. In the manual it states that that's the one you want to take out. So we're going to grind down these two pins and push that out. Alright, I've got our little grinder here. Let's just grind those off. Shouldn't take too much grinding. One's done. That one needs a little bit more. Just one little pound here. There we go. It looks like it's coming. I can see it come. There we go. We don't want to drop that in. There. You guys probably couldn't see that very well. So now we take this towel away. Wipe off all that excess on that a little bit. I think we can actually kind of pry it with the screwdriver here. Just kind of pry that out. There we go. We don't want the chain to fall. There we go. Oh. Got a wire. This can go through the cam chain and prevent that from moving down. Here is the master link. These two pins were in between, like that. So that's what you're left with. So we actually have to get these holders off. cam holders. Have to knock down those stopper plates. I believe that can get pulled off. That just sits right in there like that. And there's a little cap underneath there, right here. They said to pry that up with a flathead screwdriver. It will expose a bolt. Yep, little Allen down there. Alright. These are going to be 10 millimeters. Hopefully the frame isn't in the way. Perfect. The center ones are the hardest to get to. Just get these loosened up. There's washers on them too. Jeez. So they're labeled. This one's 3. So center one is 3. Well, that's 4. Washer fell. So center intake is 4. Alright, let's see what we're working with here. That says 4 as well. This one does. I believe. Actually, that's 2. That says 2. Looked like a 4 to me, but I think it says 2. That was missing the washer. This one says 4. Right here. Huh. Now mark the exhaust with pink marker. Other side here. Let's see what this one's labeled. This one's 8. That one didn't have a washer. It's got this like little plate on it like that. Nope, that's 6. It looked like an 8, but that's a 6. That one's actually an 8. Alright, the other one was a 6. Alright, so intake cam coming out. And you can see the IN stamped in it right there. You really can't mess it up. And then the timing dot is right there. There's only one timing dot. You can't mess that up either. So that's what that one looks like. Again, this one's stamped EX for exhaust. It only has one timing mark right there. Nothing else. So So you can't mess that one up either. Pretty easy. Let's get all the Allen bolts out. There's one right here. That was really actually pretty loose on there. That was loose too. Kind of weird. And there is going to be one right here. That was really loose too. Somebody in here before? So we can crank these off. 10 mil. Those are on there pretty good. Yeah, these are just little nuts. Little caps with washers. Alright, got a breaker bar here. This might be a little easier. These are torqued down pretty tight. There, that's a little easier. There we go, that one's off. Come on. That one's torqued down. Whew. Oh. Well, I believe all the bolts are out. Let's see if this comes off of here. Not seeing much movement. Looks like all the bolts are out. Alright, we finally got it after 20 minutes of pounding. That gasket was really on there. So these cam chains have to come out and drop in. So hopefully I can get it out without having to take the engine out of the frame. Oh man, that gasket stuck. It's really stuck on there. There we go. So this is the rocker cover. That was a job. So here's the rocker cover. Oh boy. That's what the bottom of it looks like. That That gasket was really stuck on there. Thick gasket. There's a big Allen here. It has to come out. Oh, there we go. All right, now the head should come off. Hopefully. Let's see. Doesn't look like it wants to loosen up here at all. I want to pound up on the fins. It's really not a great spot to hit. Doesn't want to budge. She's on there. All right, that finally came off. Man, these gaskets were on there. Not even come off though? I don't know. Uh-oh. Can we get this off without taking it out of the frame? I don't think so. Everything else is good. Alright. She doesn't want to come. I wonder if we have to take the whole engine out. Alright, there's no way I'm taking this engine out of the frame, so we're getting the studs out. Then we can get this head off of here. We're just tightening two nuts together. And that should work out pretty good, I would think. Twist this one off. Oh. Of course they're on there really tight. Okay. Let's see. Come on. There we go. Oh yeah. Got that one out. So this one is out, but it can't come through. And this one is still stuck on there. So we're gonna get that one off. And hopefully we can get this head off here. It clears all these studs, so we're just taking out the intake side for now. Move it. Oh yeah, she budged. I think we can get her out now. Cool. See if we can get this to come off now. Studs out, we'll see. coming up. Let's see here. There. Oh, finally. What a beast. Why wouldn't Yamaha design that so you could get it off? Holy cow. That was horrible. But we got it off without damaging anything. A couple scrapes from the bolts here. But that's not anything, it's just the gasket. So there's the valves. See this tensioner? Let's see. Alright. Head gasket coming off. That has seen better days. Alright, let's take the cylinder off if we can. I have to take these studs out. Nope. Came off. That wasn't too bad. There's a cylinder. It wasn't horrible. Here are the pistons. Ha! The rings are free. What the heck? How are the rings free? What is going on here? All the rings are free. No way. So it must have been the valves weren't closing. Try to get this out of here, this clip. Those are on there pretty tight. Alright. Those are some thick clips right there. Let's see if we can push through the pin. Coming. Wasn't stuck. Look at the piston on the backside though. Yeah, there's a lot of blow-by on that piston. That's all blow-by. Look at all the carbon on the top. That's a crazy amount of carbon. See how the rod is. Nice and tight. No play up and down whatsoever. Ooh, that one's on there. Lots of blow-by in that. Look at that. Look at the carbon built up. Jeez. Yeah, piston had a rough life. See about the rod. No up and down play. It's a little side to side. Take a peek down there. Doesn't look too bad. So bottom end is fine. Let's take the pins out. Piston. Take the rings off. The rings still look pretty decent too. Some thick rings. I don't see any numbers on them. the ring gap was, we'll look at the cylinder next. So here is the cylinder. The cross hatches actually appear to be there. Doesn't look horrible. I mean, they're a little glazed over, but not enough to only be 70 psi. Alright, here we go. Let's check the rings here. Clearance isn't that bad. There's the first ring gap. Well, what the heck? Oh, that's great. That's probably 12 thousandths. Look at that. It's definitely not the ring gap. Pistons is nice and tight in there. Yeah. Huh. Well, I don't think it was the rings. Let's take a look at the valves. Alright, so here's the head. Those are the valves there. One must be like slightly open. So what we're going to do is spray a little brake cleaner on them. And we're going to see if they leak down into these ports here. Take our flashlight and see if they're leaking. Let's see if they're leaking. I don't see anything. I'm not seeing any brake cleaner coming through here. Huh. I can see the fluid still on the top there. Nothing's leaking in. Well, what the heck? Oh boy. I don't get it. Well, should we take them off and just see what those seats look like? The keeper's coming out. They are. Very interested to see. Double spring. I'm guessing those valve seals were leaking too. Yeah, they're lipped pretty badly. But honestly, doesn't look that bad. Lots of carbon buildup. I'm not convinced yet. Doesn't look that bad. Let's see what the seat looks like. Well, what the heck? There's a ton of carbon, but the seat isn't damaged. That looks good. Like a ton of carbon on there. Well, that intake valve looks really good. Well, that's weird. That's the one that should have been leaking too. Spring's coming on. The valve doesn't look that bad. Definitely seen worse. The seat there doesn't look that bad either. Ooh, I think that might have been bent. It's really hard to push through. We have a bent valve here. I think that might be a bent valve. It's really hard to push through unless it was all the carbon built up. Spin it, see if it's wobbly. Haha, look at that. Bent valve. That's the exhaust valve though. Yeah, she's bent. Why didn't we hear it coming out of the exhaust though? When we did the leak down test, that's definitely bent. Let's see if the intake are bent. Wonder if something, nope. See if it slides right into the exhaust. Yep. Yeah, that was definitely bent. Alright, we got out the rest of the valves. None of them were bent. Just a ton of carbon built up on them. And yeah, the seats didn't look too good either. I mean, just a ton of carbon on all the seats. But I would have thought it would still have more than 70 psi. You can see some of that carbon flaking off. So I'm wondering if that carbon was starting to flake off and get between the seat and the valve there. You can see the exhaust valves are just awful. Look at the seats there, tons of carbon on the top here, and you look down in there, tons of carbon. So I'm guessing the piston rings were worn and the valve seals were probably leaking like crazy. Let's just take a valve seal off and see how bad they were. It just broke. Look how brittle that was. That's crazy. Yeah, they're really bad. They're really, really hardened up. Let's see what the valve feels like in there. Oh, they're so loose. It wasn't grabbing at all, so oil was just leaking right past the valve seals anyway. So yeah, valve seals, either way, would have had to be replaced. So even if we would have gotten this bike to fire up, it would have been smoking like crazy. So we would have had to tear it down either way. So it doesn't make me too mad. Well, I thought for sure we'd have this bike running and driving today, but unfortunately it just had too low of compression to start and run reliably today. We did get it to fire up briefly there for like 10 seconds at the beginning of the video. I thought it was fixed. I was so happy, but it just continuously lost compression. And then, you know, we tested it. We only had 70 psi each side, which was really low. So that's why we had to tear it down and investigate. So we are gonna look for some parts for this thing. Probably new pistons, new rings, and we're gonna try to clean up these valves and reuse them. Obviously we have to buy the one valve that was bent. And then we're gonna clean up all this, resurface these seats here, lap them in, and hopefully that takes care of our low compression problem. And then we can hone these cylinders out as well. Get those, get that glaze off of those. So hopefully we can find some parts for it and attempt to rebuild it next video. So we're gonna go spend some time, look for some parts, come back next video, and hopefully get this one put back together, running and driving. That is the goal. So we're not giving up quite yet. I'm close after doing that top end. That was awful, but we're gonna take the engine out of the bike and then rebuild the top end and do it that way. I think that would be a lot easier than trying to build the top end in the frame. That was a pain getting that apart. So yeah, look forward to the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next one, and until next time, we are out.